Hey everybody, it's Bus getting ready to kick off Expedition Trial number 265. But first, there's been some more spoilers. Of course, that means, some more exciting things to come and talk about. Ever since the last set of hot takes we did, they have released the Lysandra cards and the Talia cards. All of them, they seem fine. I don't know what more you can say to them. There's nothing that really, to me at least, stands out as being particularly exciting or particularly terrible. At least, one of the big things I am glad to see is something like Desert Naturalist come about. We had all of these cards in Magic. This was always your I can't remember the name of them. It's like every set has a 4 cost 2/2 flying bird that kills an enchantment, and I'm glad to see these things kind of make their way into Runeterra. We haven't had real needs to destroy things that aren't units. It's really just been units and spells up to this point, but having some kind of interactive way to deal with your opponent's landmarks is kind of nice. I guess I had kind of thought about how how unfortunate I feel like the word landmark is that's been applied to these things. In my opinion, I think of landmarks as either you have a landmark discovery in science or something. Someone figures out the cure to cancer, that's a landmark discovery, or you have national landmarks, which would be like in America, like the Statue of Liberty or something. We look at that as a natural national landmark, and not really in the other sense of the definition as to where if I'm trying to describe how to get to my house, you travel down Main Street and turn right at the Burger King. That Burger King is also a landmark, and these are all very Burger King kind of landmarks. There's nothing exciting about Roiling Sands down here. There's no, they all had this feel of bigness and importance in the previous set when everything was epic. They felt like that kind of big epic landmark, and now this is apparently where you get out your, I don't know, your blanket, your surfboard, and you and you fly around on the roiling sands. But nonetheless, all terminology aside, the kind of like the two big things that really came to mind to me with the release of these Lysandra cards and the release of these Talia cards is, the first one is I've talked about it, quite a bit as to where I think it's unfortunate that like some of these card pools don't have very much identity as far as the specific packs that we're drafting. So say like there's not really a whole lot of difference between a Shroom and Boom Teemo and a Total Recall Teemo. Like there's a slight difference in what's supposed to be happening. The Shroom and Boom is supposed to be some kind of deck fully focused on doing things with puff caps, as to where Total Recall pairs up with Karma and is meant to be getting some kind of value out of replaying units. Oh, the new cards came out. I wasn't I wasn't quite expecting that. We'll come back to it. Looks like Nasus here in a bit, but um, I get that there's some slight differences there. Like from a thematic standpoint, you're getting your bonuses from puff caps by like recalling your chump wumps and clump of wumps and such. But ideally, I wish there was a little more definition. And what that, makes me think of whenever we're taking a look at Lysandra is, there is the Enlightenment Trundle and the Otherworldly Journeys or Otherworldly Creatures Trundle. There's really like no definition between either of them. They do a lot of the very same thing. And so they all have like the ramp cards in them. They all have all of the AOEs, and they have the big units. They both seem to have the troll theme for whatever reason, and there's not really any definition that says this trundle is different from this one. And so I hope that they're able to really craft that forward and try to shape up these pools to have some identity, as opposed to just making a whole lot more card pools. What I suspect will happen is, nothing is going to change in the existing card pools. Lysandra is going to get her own, and they probably won't touch on like how they did with the Felios, to where say the Enlightenment Freylord is both Trundle and Lysandra, or they remove Trundle and put Lysandra in. I'm hoping we get to the point to where there isn't just 150 card pools to keep track of, and it's kind of like with Teamfight Tactics, how we have this rotating cast and crew of champions, and then whenever set is released, some champions will be removed, some will be added, and that's how you get a lot of variety with the addition and removal of these champions in the different card pools. I haven't seen it up to this point. I'm hoping that's what ends up happening. As we look at these cards here with Lysandra, there's definitely this 8 cost matters theme. You see it on the Watcher here. The Frostguard Thrall comes down at 8 mana. The Dark Lord Inquisitor Oh, he was in the. I thought there was a different one. The 8 mana matters themes, but no, there's also the ramp card down here in cold resistance. So, it's just kind of hope. They are in kind of a spot now. I do talk about like the World of Warcraft problem, where the World of Warcraft has been around for, I don't know, a decade or however long it's been around. It's probably pushing 2 decades now. And whenever someone releases a new MMO, they expect it to have all of the same features as World of Warcraft, and so that's an extremely tall mountain to climb. I thought Riot's handled it pretty well as far as Runeterra is concerned, and comparing it to other card games like Magic and Hearthstone and getting those features out there. And we're still pretty much in the infancy of this game, right? There's supposed to be 10 factions in total, and this set's release will get us up to 8, I believe. And so, there's still room for that, and still room for that kind of identity thing to come about. But hopefully, we'll see that push forward. And then, my last topic is, also in kind of the same vein as, as we've seen with the release of these Shurima cards, there's the new one here in Shaped Stone, just 100% functionally stronger than a card like Radiant Strike, right? Radiant Strike just gives it a unit +1/+1 for the round at burst speed. Now the Shaped Stone does the same thing, but it has an additional bonus to it. We've seen a couple of other cards like that. Our our big sadness was down here in Bloodthirsty Marauder, the 3/1 for 1 mana, just functionally 100% better than Legion Rearguard. And so the other one that comes to mind was we come down and look at Esteemed Hierophant over here on the right. 100% functionally better than Loyal Badger Bear. And so, these kind of things are going to come about. It's going to happen. In Magic, they speak to the color pie quite a bit. And so, in Magic, if we wanted to talk about, say, how do we remove enchantments? Or, that's the closest combination in Runeterra as comparing an enchantment in Magic to a landmark in Runeterra. Like, how do we remove these? And so, in Magic, the colors green and white have ways to just directly remove enchantments. Uh, like the blue color can't remove enchantments, but they can probably return them to your opponent's hand or get them off of the board for a little bit. The color black can't really do it unless it's something that just kind of removes everything from the board. Black has some kind of ways to just go about destroying everything but your mana sources, and then red just can't do it. Historically, that may have changed now. I don't really follow Magic too much anymore, but that was kind of like the definition of how things worked. And so, if you wanted to go out and destroy enchantments, you were probably going to have to play either green or white to get access to that kind of effect. And so, these are things that we do expect to see. We do expect to see, some factions have better units than the other ones. We can kind of see this where Piltover's units are all pretty terrible, but they have a lot of utility, as to where it was like we were kind of seeing Noxus and Demacia being the factions that have, just kind of bigger units as far as raw stats go. And so it's kind of odd seeing a new faction come out that just has units that are stronger than the other factions that just had the strong, the strong units as their theme. And so, I hope we do get to see in the future how they really plan to define all of these, the strengths and weaknesses of each faction. And this isn't just a function of power creep. This would be really unfortunate if, the reasoning behind this was like, well, we don't want a functional reprint of Radiant Strike over here with our Shaped Stone. And, there's actually a solid reasoning behind why Shaped Stone is, stronger than Radiant Strike. And so we'll see. I'm sure those kind of things will come in the future. But as it stands, I think it's, a little unfortunate to see these things pop up without any, real explanation as to why, as opposed to, just assuming, oh, we're just going to get the power creep every set. Because, as we've seen at least in Expedition, Targon has been much more powerful than anything released in Foundations, and so hopefully that's not what we run into with Shurima. But nonetheless, getting back into Expedition number 265 here, all of these champions are pretty reasonable. From a champion standpoint, they're all pretty strong. I'm trying to think of the one that we've just drafted the most recently. I can't remember. It's probably been Twisted Fate. And then I think this Zed card pool is just a little on the boring side. And so let's come over here and just take this Aurelion Sol. I'm kind of on board with it. If we're going to speak to the power creep of the Targon cards, then the invoke theme really really shows it, because it has just been the overwhelmingly powerful control strategy since the release of Call of the Mountain. It's just there's no way to actually outvalue these invoke cards. and so it's just a pretty powerful thing. It's just completely trumped all of the existing control deck strategies. They're still fine, you know. You can still play the other control deck strategies like Lux. It's just not nearly as powerful as what you get out of having invokes. And so, this is who we'll be taking here, this Otherworldly Creatures Aurelion Sol. Let's take a moment and get this pulled up on the site. If you're not familiar with it, this is ftpbus.com. It's where I keep all of my expedition-related content. We will have these set reviews up to date as soon as the new cards come out. That's usually, as the new cards come out, this is one of the first things I'll end up tackling. I should hopefully get the set reviews out almost immediately after the full spoiler is released. And then, of course, the guide section has the full extent of my YouTube content, and then the tier lists. This is currently up to date. I usually wait about a week after the new cards are released to get this up to date with the new cards. But nonetheless, over here we'll be on the Expedition Helpers section. We're just going to click on Aurelion Sol, go down to Otherworldly Creatures, and this is completely the invokes build around. And so, what we tend to see out of Aurelion Sol is he wants to either build towards dragons or he wants to build towards invokes. And this is the invoke half. The whatever Dragon's Descent is the dragon one. That's the one where we're going to find like the various two cost units that really support the dragons. Over here, this is just the full-on invoke support deck, and so as we kind of mentioned in the previous thing when we were deciding what champion we wanted to take, this is just kind of the ultimate late game card pool, and so we really need to do whatever we can to just get to the late game, and then we shouldn't have too much trouble winning the game from that point forward. And so kind of the big things that we really see in this card pool is you need something to do in the early game. That's why we have the starred value on the Lunari Priestess and the Solari Priestess. It's just units that can come down very early in the game, interact with what your opponent's doing, and get an invoke out of it. And so these tend to be our kind of preferred early game plays of choice. The other things that we see is I do really like Starry Scamp here. It's just a way to get something onto the board, and being able to do that for free is a pretty big deal. And then Star Shaping helps just buy us some time. And so these are our, preferred methods of getting invokes and dealing with celestials and taking advantages from those. The two priestesses, the Starry Scamp is our early game play, and then Star Shaping to help buy us time. Otherwise, the big thing that we have to look for here is there's no really good early game plays in this deck. That's why the Scamp and the Priestess are so valuable. Otherwise, the only 2-drop that lives in this card pool is the Startled Stomper. There's no reasonable ones. This one doesn't even have what's her name? The Spacey Sketcher doesn't have any reasonable 3-drops, and so you really have to go out of your way to get these early game plays. That's typically what we'll be looking out of a second faction, is something to do in the early game, or at least get paired up with Leona to where we can try to find some of the Solari units. The other big problem here is there's no removal spells in this card pool, and so Sunburst is nowhere to be found. Typically, the only way we have access to removal or easy removal is with Solari Priestess. In the Invoke set of cards, the Meteor Shower at 5 and Obliterate spell at 6 are the easiest way for this card pool to get removal spells. And so ideally, we'll be able to go out and pick up a Sunburst or two, but given if that doesn't show up, we have to play this really high value on Solari Priestess because she's our best shot at getting removal spells. And so yeah, lots of good mid-game, lots of great late game, no interaction, no early game. And so we are looking for another faction to help us shore up those weaknesses here. Okay. So let's take a peek. There's always the Grand Plaza. We're gonna have to let that go. I don't think this is a particularly powerful play as far as the Otherworldly Journey is concerned. This is like I would almost be interested in the Vaults of Hellia, since we play so many of these just like bad invoke units. Like if we can play a Solari Priestess, kill it off, and get a real 4-drop, that would be kind of neat. But that's just not really the kind of value train that we really need here. I'd rather just play this thing for value. The card we get out of it's enough value as opposed to needing another card to help with it like Vaults of Hellia. So I think we can let that go. Also, not particularly interested in this Soraka. We're not going to be particularly good at getting into combat and having our units survive. We tend to just sit around and try to hopefully get trades with units like Solari Priestess. We typically don't, and it takes 2 of our units to actually take down one of our opponents. And that's not really what Soraka's looking to do. We could get paired up with Bilgewater quickly, but these healing cards just are not really playing to our strengths. So that's going to leave us over here with this Enlightenment Trundle. Kind of interesting. He was another one of the cards that we talked about at extent in our hot take section, but he's one that we'll be looking to take here. This Enlightenment card pool is meant to help you get all the way up to 10 mana crystals, and as you can imagine, getting to 10 mana and playing Aurelion Sol is a pretty powerful thing to be doing. So let's get him pulled up as well. This is Enlightenment Trundle. Let's see, let's scroll down here. And so what we're typically seeing out of this card pool is there's kind of two things going on with it. If we want to think about the problems we had with Aurelion Sol, they are kind of answered here when Trundle. Those problems being no early game plays and then no ways to interact. And so on the interactive front, this has a bunch of AOEs in it. There's Avalanche to deal 2 to everything. There's Trundle Quake to deal 3 to everything. I was trying to think if this has the 3/2 for 3 mana that does 1 damage to everything. Doesn't look like it lives in this one. And then, of course, Trundle's flip card is Trundle Quake. And so, kind of the ideal way here that we'll be interacting with our opponent's units is just AoEing the board. The way that this deck is supposed to get strength from that is the regenerate mechanic. And so if we avalanche our Troll Ravager, then the next turn he'll be healed back up to 5 health. Does not really care about the damage that he just took. And so it's not something I really like to pursue in that sense. I don't like to pursue this self-healing, regenerate kind of theme. It's just the AoEs are very powerful. It helps stalling us to get to the late game. And then the other way that we have the help here is, this pool doesn't have a lot of the early game units that we're looking for, but it does have a lot of mana ramp. And so we have Catalyst of the Aeons to gain mana crystals, Weirding Stones to gain mana crystals. You can try to use things like Voices of the Old Ones and Faces of the Old Ones. All of these cards gain mana crystals, and so the idea is that if we just skip from 3 mana to 5 mana, then we can just play bigger cards. We can play more expensive cards as opposed to needing to play a straight through mana curve where we fill out things in the early game. And so, to that sense, if we're looking to play ramp and AoEs, I really like the Weirding Stone since it can survive it. This will survive an Avalanche. Catalyst of the Aeons is just, not a unit, and so this also survives Avalanche, as to where we see problems with things like Faces of the Old Ones, to where, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to play this on turn 2. Turn 3, we hit this Behold and ramp up to 4 mana, and then play an Avalanche and kill our own unit. It doesn't seem like that great of a combo. And so ideally, if we're using this Trundle, we're going to pick up some of these ramp cards like Weirding Stones and Catalyst to the Aeons, and then just skip over the early game and go straight into just playing bigger units. And so that's the idea here. If you aren't really familiar with the cards, we can pull up the other half of this Otherworldly Journeys Trundle. This kind of shows what I was talking about in the hot take section real quick, is how different is this Trundle from the other one. We have Catalyst of the Aeon, Faces of the Old Ones, Troll Ravager, Voices of the Old Ones, Wolf Rider, Weirding Stones, Augur, Avalanche, Battle Fury. Just there's so many cards that live between both of these card pools. What really makes Otherworldly Creatures feel different than Enlightenment? They're both trying to do exactly the same thing. Sure, there's some slight differences between the two, but for the most part, these pools are like 75% similar. And so, it's hopefully something that gets fixed as more cards are released. They have more options to really give these card pools some identity. It's just, I think it's kind of unfortunate at this stage to where it's like, I don't know if Trundle is just a very popular League character, and so they released 2 Trundle card pools to try to sell some skins, or if there's like a 3-year plan for Expedition, and Trundle is just what fits in here now, and this is meant to be a Lysandra in the future or something. I don't know. It's not. I'm not a dev. It's just I'm as I say. It's the dev's job to fix these things, and then my job to just sit around and bitch about them. And so it's at least something for me to sit around and bitch about. But I find it kind of unfortunate that I feel like the new cards are going to come out. There's still going to be Enlightenment Trundle, Otherworldly Creatures Trundle, and then there's just going to be, I don't know, Frozen Throne Lysandra, or whatever the new cards would be called. But nonetheless, we should be pretty well shaped up to get our draft going here. We know our strengths, it's our late game. We know our weaknesses, it's our early game and interaction. And so as long as we can find some early game and some interaction along the way, we should be in a pretty good spot. And so to that end, the Kindly Tavern Keeper Avalanche are a pretty good pickup. You know, the 3/3 for 3 is right on the rate point for what we should be getting here. He helps buy us some time to get to the late game, and then an AOE and Avalanche. Just all around very good stuff. Don't want anything to do with Poro Fly, it just doesn't play well here. And then Fury of the North Troll Chant would be in a more combat-centric deck. Those aren't really the type of spells that we're looking for here. Okay. Not the most exciting set of cards. We don't want to delve into Aeonia. This does not play particularly well towards the theme that we're doing. There's no invokes, there's no removal spells. The early game units are all aggressive units. It's just there's no really good combos for what we're trying to pull off. And then kind of a similar boat down here with the Luminous Dusk Pool. These are early game plays, but these are aggressive early game plays. And so I wouldn't be upset to have the Sky Shadows. This is a great blocker, but we're just never going to be able to fully take advantage of these two cards. And so we are at least getting an interactive unit in the Rhinefang Wolf, and then a potential for card advantage in Troll Chant. It's just going to have to be as good as it is at this point. Okay, and this is getting a little unfortunate in the amount of Targon cards that have been showing up. We're going to have to try to pick up some more invokes, because ideally here, I mean, I'm going to take this Archer and the Wild Claw. We did talk about the ramp theme, but this is just kind of too hard to pull off. We don't have the early game combat units that make these plunders reasonable to hit, so I don't really want the Wolf Riders. I really don't like this Behold theme. I really don't like that these high roll cards. And this one is just not, you know, this is going to be a high roll in an aggressive deck. That's just not something we're really looking to pull off here. So, you know, it's at least an interactive unit, an Icevale Archer with a big boy and Alpha Wildclaw. I would like to trade out these more expensive late game cards for invokes, but we'll have to see if we're allowed to do that at some point. Looks like we're just turning ourselves into a Freylord Overwhelms deck. Because here we're going to be taking Brittle Steel and Hearthguard, just a big value play in the Hearthguard interactive element in Brittle Steel. And then these other cards, you know, we are seeing a lot of Targon cards. It's just the trash versions of it. I bitch about that a lot as well, but that's a story for another day. We've talked about this quite a bit, where they're adding fledgling Stellacorns to the card pools, where you can't just because it's a bad card. Just, you know, really reduces the quality. We don't want to be taking these Targon cards because there's ultra low quality Stellacorns, and that seems to be the Riot's way of fixing the high quality card pools into lower quality ones. It's just to add horrible cards to them. So we're going to stay away from the Stellacorn. We're going to stay away from Ionia. These are going to have to be good enough Freylord cards. Okay, well, we're looking like another Troll Chant and Harsh Winds. We don't have too many spells, so I don't feel too upset about taking these. The Tavern Keeper would be a nice pickup here, but these cards are just way too powerful to be letting go. And then, of course, we don't want anything to do with Troll Chant. It could be, you know, somewhat reasonable here. We do plan on drafting a bunch of Trundles. We have an Augur of the Old Ones, so we do have some regenerate cards that we could be giving this permanent +2/+2 to, but it's not something that I really want to be pursuing. And here we go. It just took a matter of time before our invokes would start showing up. I'm really just interested in the star shaping here. We are going to have to be kind of mindful of our curve, but the star shaping is the important one to be picking up here. I really kind of just want this Trapper and the Brittle Steel, but I think we have to make sure that we have some of these high-quality invokes. I don't really want Moondreepers, but star shaping is the high-quality one we're looking for. We'll pretty much go out of our way to take any of the priestesses, like Solari or Lunari Priestess, and then star shaping. Just the big and important ones. Okay, all right, this is an interesting set. My problem is, sorry, I had to sneeze. My problem here with this one is I have a really tough time passing on Harsh Winds, but I think these other cards are just going to be too good here. And so there is, you know, the most powerful out of all these cards is Icequake. That's what I'm leaning towards taking here. We should be able to, you know, just find these other random 2-cost cards at some point throughout the trial, but we'll probably never see another Icequake outside of our Trundle flips. And so I think this is the one that we're going to take advantage of here, even though the Feral Mystic is pretty weak, even though the Harsh Winds is very powerful. I think we should get opportunities to pick up some of these other cards later, to where we'll never see another Trundle Quake. Ugh, this is a gross set of cards. Well, we can't take Call of the Wild here, this pack. This card will just literally be 100% dead in our deck. If we ever draw this, it's like you just skipped a draw step. We can't be putting that kind of garbage into our deck. I think we're just going to take the Startled Stomper. I mean, we have one dragon, right? We have Aurelion Sol at this point. We could play him on turn 9 with the Herald, but this can at least block something. I guess that's that's more than we can say for Call of the Wild. And so, out of all of these cards, the one I want the most is the Startled Stomper. And so, I'd say ideally it will allow us to trade away that. The Herald of Dragons at some point and pretty quickly, but it's just not going to do it for us now. So it's the same vein, Faces of the Old Ones does not work here. We only have 2 8-cost cards, and then Trundle, will make an 8, but we're never going to activate this at any reasonable point of the game. I think here we're going to take a Rime Tusk Shaman, and if we're taking a Rime Tusk Shaman, I believe I want the one with the Bull Elnick. We already have one Brittle Steel. We're not going to be getting in a whole lot of early game combats, and we do already have Troll Chance. And so the quality of this is going to fall off pretty quick, whereas Bull Elnick is just a pretty good blocker all the time. And so pretty happy to pick him up. Okay, well, looks like we took the Herald of Dragons pack, and now all of the dragons are just going to start showing up. There's no two ways around that. I mean, here this is unfortunate. The card I want the most is Caught in the Cold. We don't have any way to interact. We don't have any removal spells. We're just really counting on Solari Priestess in our 2 AOEs. And so I would love to have Caught in the Cold, but Tall Tales is just too bad here. This is just another completely dead card. So this is tough. Like, out of all of these, the Infinite Mind Splitter is it's a little more expensive for my tastes. Out of these 5, I really just want the Fused Firebrand. I think this is kind of one of the premier mid-game plays because it's just so tough to deal with. But I know we also ideally kind of want this Iceveil Archer. I think I'm going to just take the Mind Splitter. We may end up with a Behold or 2, and so having another 8 isn't the worst there. I don't really plan on drafting Behold cards, but it's something that could happen. Oh man, these cards are just garbos. So many terrible ones showing up here. There's between Shatter and Feral Mystic and Dragon's Clutch, Zenith Blade. Like, Zenith Blade is of course very powerful, but we're just never going to get multiple copies of this. So I guess we'll take the Iceveil Archer as just another early game play. It's kind of unfortunate having to pick up Shatter, but this was just kind of like, oh, I see you took a card that says Dragon on it. Now Dragon's Descent is going to show up every pack. So hopefully we can trade this Herald away and it'll quit doing this stuff. Nonetheless, down here we've got a Brittle Steel with a Kindly Tavern Keeper. Just great early game plays for us. Let's see how we can finish this off. Okay, alrighty. Well, I'm good to trade away the Mystic for a Sentry. This is one of the more premier early game plays. I don't really want Star Charts or more Brittle Steels, and so this is an upgrade. If we ever hit 10 mana, we don't need 2/2s at that point, or 6/6s for 2 mana at that point. We'll just have invokes at that point. Okay, then we do need to go and make someone premium. I have to see if I've leveled up the Moondreamer yet. It's pretty cool to go and be making premium copies of these invoked Celestials. So we'll check on Moondreamer, we'll check on Star Shaping, and see if we've already leveled those up. Let's just do the search for Invoke. See who we have. The Moondreamer is leveled, but the Star Shaping is not. Okay. Welcome to the party, Star Shaping. You make us those 7-cost Celestials that are all shiny and stuff. I typically go for the units first. That's why you see Moondreamer pick. Just because you get the units on the board, and your opponent gets to enjoy their shininess for a while. So, pretty cool. Pretty cool. We get those expensive ones now with our Star Shaping, though. What you got for us? The full-on Targon Nightfall. Interesting. No Shadow Isles. I was always surprised to not see Shadow Isles show up with those. And so with this, I think this is probably, this entire hand is probably a reasonable start. I have to just kind of balance how much we want to get these units on board and playing this eventual Icequake. Icequake should be just devastating against a Nightfall deck. So let's see if we can't just try to get this out on the 5th turn.
No more hiding.
Okay. I think I'm good to just go ahead and bank up here and then add a Kindly Tavern Keeper on our turn. Absolutely.
This'll take the chill off.
Sunlight guide you, my brethren.
I was expecting a bit more aggression out of this guy. Okay, okay. So interesting if we want to actually get this Bull Elnick on the board, or if we want to. Wow, this dude's invoking better than we can, man.
Now they see who I truly am.
Okay. I think we're fine to just add Bull Elnick. I mean, it's going to be tough for us to find a good spot to get this Trundle Quake in, especially if he's just going bigger than us. The at least perk to the Elnick is that he can survive the Ice Quake. You ever want to attack with the Traveler? Okay, apparently we're the aggro here. This feels like the spot where we're supposed to be getting a good Ice Quake. Here, I mean, it's tough if we want. I think we probably just want the Immortal Fire. We're kind of far away from playing the Scourge. We're getting built up to a better and better Ice Quake as time goes on here. All right, so we'll certainly be Ice Quaking next turn. At our first opportunity next turn, we're going to play the Ice Quake. Get rid of this Aphelios. We'll get 2 units left behind to his just 1. Should be pretty powerful. Okay, perfect.
See as I see.
Who's gonna close up?
One of the things I was kind of worried about there is if we're going to play the Ice Quake and then he's just going to kill one of our big units. Not the case. Beautiful, beautiful.
The mountain knows me. I am the traveler.
Could potentially get together a reasonable avalanche as well. Just a good way to take down this Diana.
I cannot turn back. Face your heretic.
I want to keep this this Elnick. Kind of the idea I have that we're going to be doing here is we're going to kindly Tavern Keeper our Elnick and then play Avalanche. So we'll lose our Moondreamer, but then we'll still have the 2 units on board.
Leave your bags in the door.
Take down his Diana as well, who's going to be a touch of a problem here. Thanks. We're never going to get AOEs this good for the rest of the trial. It's just that's the way it is. Okay. Do we just want to full clear this board? He hasn't played any of his invokes, right? There's one of them. But it's that's my big worry here is that he's just picked up expensive cards with his invokes. He's played the 2 Travelers and he's played the Daybreak Priestess. Well, here's our path to victory. Hopefully he doesn't have an Obliterate for it. He's certainly got better invokes than we do, that's for certain.
So much to tell us.
Darkness hides in my
Okay.
path.
That's what I assumed. He snapped that one off really quick.
Your fate has been decided.
He's found exactly what he was looking for, especially not being on the Priestess. You know, the Priestess invoke is much quicker than, or much easier to hit since it's gets the specific 6 mana cards.
May all those who journey find what they
There was the opportunity to take the Written in the Stars to go and pick up a champion. You know, good chance to pick up the Aurelion Sol. Trundle would be okay as well, but I think we have enough time to just sit around and try to draw those.
Trust your heart.
Okay.
Believe or burn. Open your eyes.
Just get as much value as we can here. We're good to just stall this out and do some healing here for a bit. Okay. Doesn't win the combat, just doesn't lose it. We want the Scourge. I kind of want one of these spell shielded ones. Let's take the spell shielded elusive. Here's our plan. We're gonna kill his elusive, and then we're gonna try to win the game with the Great Beyond next turn. Okay. Sure.
Got you.
He's only got one spell at this point. It should be pretty tough for him to stop us from trying to do what we're doing. You can play the Great Beyond, and maybe he'll just play the Scourge or something. I'm pretty sure his last card is an invoked card plus whatever he just drew this turn.
When it runs by, scares stars from the sky.
Okay. Good game, friend. And then my idea here is we'll probably be taking the Trundle. I don't really like drafting multiple copies of Aurelion Sol. Just too expensive to be having in our deck. This is a horrible Trundle, though. Alright, we'll just have to hope we can trade some of this stuff away. We have a lot of stuff we want to trade away. It's just having these Trundles is too important, I think. Okay. Feeling good. That's crazy. That dude had so many more invokes than us, and we were still able to take control of it. I can't imagine we'll ever get get AOEs that good ever again. It's kind of like best case scenario for both the Avalanche and the Trundle Quake. So for here, kind of interesting. I'm kind of like partial to keeping these champions in the early game, but I don't. I think Trundle might be a little bit too expensive for what we're doing here. Oh, oh, that was certainly an expensive set of cards to hit on the mulligan, but I think we might be able to recover. We got so many premiums though, right? I mean, we got the premium Hearthguard, the premium Priestess. That's all we should really need to take this game over. That's what it's all about. And so against Nautilus Maokai, you should be playing sea monsters, but my problem against sea monsters is that like invokes or not invokes things. The obliterates tend to not just be good enough. Like if we're to the point of the game to where we're playing invokes, or I'm sorry, playing the obliterate cards onto our opponent's sea monsters, and we've probably already lost. So I think we'll just try to like control his Maokai if we can, as long as he's not getting super big level ups or super quick level ups with his deep. I think we should be okay. Rhymetusk Shaman also plays particularly well against sea monsters. Okay, so let's see what he does. It's tough for us to get a good meteor shower here with the way his units line up, but I think this is okay. He clearly doesn't have a Maokai here. It doesn't seem like he's gonna present a better target for this, and then we should be able to just play a big boy every turn for the rest of the game. And so yes, Spark Beast levels up, but we're gonna be playing 5/5s and 7/6s for the remainder of the time here.
Many tribes under one banner.
And there's the Maokai. right on time. The turn immediately after we play our Meteor Shower. Okay. Still, kind of far away from deep, but he's going to be tossing real quick now. That's the important reason to get this Maokai out of here. It's just he's going to play 2 units and be tossed 4 cards and hit deep. Quite a bit of Mistwraith cards. Oh, Andy hit. Just the delayed reaction on the hit there. Don't really care about this thing taking down our Hearthguard. The unfortunate thing here is we can't troll chant anything. Kind of is what it is at this point.
Let's get to it.
I guess we can just prevent the damage this way. Firebrand protects himself from Trundle Quakes. So I mean, I guess we can just prevent the damage. We're not going to get a better usage out of the Startled Stomper. Okay, and then I assume we'll get a pretty good Troll Chant here. Shouldn't have much answer to the Wild Claw, but there's an argument to go ahead and attack since if he plays a unit, he's going to get a sapling, but I think this will be okay. Okay, I think I matched that about right. Okay, we can still do stuff to this Terror of the Tots. We just need to stall out and see if we can't get Aurelion Sol going. Let's see, as long as it's not just like a big pile of sea monsters, we should be okay here. Ooh, picking up Regenerate could be huge. Let's see how he handles this. Might have to try to star shaping it, but
Not and ready.
none of this seems particularly good. We probably just have to accept that he's going to do some stuff here and then play Trundle Quake next turn. Right, we just need time. We're gonna start shaping our face. Put this in front of whatever's gonna deal the most damage. Oh, you can just hook this with something, but can we pick up another Celestial? Bet we can. Maybe we should have just Trundle Quake this turn. I think it'll be okay. Actually, if we can answer this Maokai. Does not appear we'll be able to. Oh my gosh, he's really got more stuff here. What else could he even have here? Riptide. Okay. feel like we've messed this one up. I don't particularly like. I think we probably should have just ice quaked on the previous turn to try to take down as much of the stuff as we can instead of trying to play the Ice Veil Archer and doing things that way. I think we're probably just too far behind now. We've got to draw like specifically harsh winds to get ourselves out of this. I think we could have won that. I think I'm not real pleased with with how I played that game. I think we messed that one up there, but it's tough in this game. Like in just get rid of the Herald of Dragons. I don't want Augur of the Old Ones, but Herald of Dragons doesn't actually do nothing in our deck. It's like in Runeterra, everything has sort of pseudo flash, if you will, if you're used to playing other games, to where typically, in like Magic. You can only play units or creatures on your turn. In Hearthstone, you can only play cards on your turn. It's very different in Runeterra, being able to essentially play units on any turn of the game. So it's like every unit has flash. There's no unit that says, can only play if you have the attack token this turn or something, or you can only play if you have an odd number of mana. And so it's really tough to judge when you can play these AOEs because, in large part, you'd like to play it and then, your opponent not be able to follow up with any more units, but it's not how it works all the time. And with this, we should find a reasonable target for this Shatter. If we're starting with Brittle Steel, Ice Veil Archer, I felt like that was a reasonable keep. But it'll ideally be on a Callista type unit. This is tough. If we need to actually spew this off on Mistwraith, hopefully we don't. Because we just drew our Avalanche. That was better lucky than good, am I right?
Take a look at this.
Okay.
Track them down.
This is what he picked up off of that Warden Spray. Can't be having Demacia cards in this style of deck. Okay, I think we're fine to just keep stalling. If he wants to play like a Darius or something here, then I'm okay to take it down. We can take down Mistwraith.
Knocked and ready.
Hopefully this isn't too greedy, but I have to feel like if he had a Draven, he would have played it. Maybe not a Callista. But at this stage, we just need time. As long as we've got time, then we're going to be okay.
Everyone's a garden.
Our strength is yours.
He can, hook this, and that's fine. We just need to prevent the damage. Big chunk of damage we can prevent down here. We'll just let our Ice Veil Archer go and prevent 9. Let's just take the 1. I don't think this is too greedy. Alright, we're gonna be having blockers for the Mistwraith. The big worry at this stage to me would be as if he has atrocities. But I think we'll be okay here. He wants to trade with a Mistwraith, that has to be okay. Well, probably we shouldn't have made this attack. Now he's going to be able to put another unit out. Yeah, that was a mistake. I forget about that. I talk about that sometimes, since you're limited to the number of units you can have on the board. But attacks like that don't really do anything. I mean, of course, we chunked in a handful of damage, but
Stay back. Stand and defend.
see if we die to that atrocity now.
Come on in.
There's Callista. So yeah, not super happy with that attack. Our health total should be quite a bit higher here. But kind of is what it is.
We fight as one.
Let's get our Overwhelm unit in. We need to try to limit how quickly this Callista flips. She's going to be bringing back Wraith Collars, which is kind of tough for us to deal with. So I wanted to get our Overwhelm hit in while we still could. We got to chunk down his health to some degree, but I wanted to leave back our Tavern Keeper so she doesn't just immediately flip.
Come this way.
This is our homeland. Let's talk about your town.
Okay. So she'll flip now, but we should have a big enough board to deal with a Wraith Collar coming into play. That one turn of value, I think, was all we needed to prevent, especially when we're about to drop Wild Claw plus Aurelion Sol. So we've got more Mother's Call. Really? Oh, the Conservator made it. Okay. It's a big play. We were pretty... Oh, boy. Wow. I'd say we were pretty close to lethal here. What the fuck are you leveling up so slow? Oh, just taking its time to to level this up.
You weren't always this way.
So how can we do this? I think we just don't attack again. So it's like I'm just gonna play Aurelion Sol, see what he picks. So I want the Supernova so we can try to obliterate his units, and then I'm just gonna pass. Right, he's not in a spot to where he's really adding units to the board. Like, yeah, we can still struggle with an Atrocity. We can technically Troll Chant through an Atrocity, but I think if we're able to get back to one more turn, then we'll be okay. Especially once we're playing our free expensive cards.
I'm the forger of stars.
Alright, Aurelion Sol, protect us. Gonna pick up an expensive here. Well, we're gonna pick up an invoke here. It's certainly not an expensive, but Star Shaping is a great pickup.
I've carved meat bigger than you.
You abject failure.
Let's see, we're never gonna kill this Callista. That will stop this attack down here. Let's just get this thing off the board.
Stand and defend.
You must be very...
Something like this, we're not gonna take any damage. Losing Tavern Keeper, yes. We're losing the Stomper, yes. Then our important units all survive. Okay. I think we're fine now. It was a little sketchy to a degree, but I think we're okay. Let's start with Star Shaping. I don't really want a Cosmic Inspiration, but can't just win the game with Immortal Fire. Like, all of our units are just big enough at this point. Maybe that'll give us enough Overwhelm damage, though. So let's take the Inspiration. Now we can obliterate 2 of his units away. And then we can just play this next turn. Might as well add our faces of the old one. He's gonna have some big attacks next turn. Gonna get that +2/+2. All right, that was a little. We messed up. We haven't been playing our most solid Runeterra this trial, but we just gotta tighten it up a little bit. We'll be okay. Got all the tools we need. I just want to swap out some of these bad cards for decent cards, and I'll be pretty happy. So Shatter for Rhymefang Wolf is fine. It's an interactive unit on his own, even without help. He can come down and make a trade. You can target our opponent's Maokais and stuff, so we aren't just getting completely taken advantage of. And then we still have some Frostbites to make this more relevant. We've got 2 Brittle Steels, 2 Icefell Archers, and a Harsh Winds down here, and so he has some options. You can technically do stuff with like Trundle Quake as well. You have a unit -3 attack and then play the wolf afterwards. It's not something we're going to be frequently doing, but that and the Troll Chant do have the options to take attacks down to 0. Okay. Oof. Take us home, Aurelion Sol. Get us to 7. This is one of our last ones before the new cards come out. We got to be dominating all these, right? Okay. Tempted to not keep Troll Chant. I mean, we need something to do in the early game. This is probably a dragon stack, but there's a lot of overlap between dragons and Fiora. I probably got to just look for units. We can choose to not play them if we want. But the Troll Chant was meant to be. Okay. It's gonna Fiora us. Man, everybody's got these. Everybody's played invokes today. This is coming out of nowhere. Playing the invoke game better than we are.
Daylight warms the heart and lights
Okay.
the way.
The fate of mortals and spirits falls to me.
We're gonna get in for that point of damage. I don't think that's quite worth it, but let's see. We'll see what happens.
Forced equilibrium.
Yeah.
Our strength
All right, let's get the value here while we can. We don't need to get the Shamans or the Trundles on board right away. Okay. It's like a very Troll Chantable board. No combat tricks are particularly scary. Like, what's he gonna do? Riposte? Like, riposting doesn't take down our Bull Elnick. Retreat, sure. Okay. Not intimidated. All of our units are so huge. So you can get a good hook onto our Icefell Archer, but at least protect everything from this barriered Shen attack. The big problem with that was a barriered Shen where we couldn't kill either unit. Pretty okay now.
Come on in.
Okay, then let's just send these in. I don't quite want to just slam our Trundle onto this board. Let him come down after combat. Oh, no trick. Very surprised to see no trick.
Virtue guides me.
Do not care about his health total at this point. We'll just value through this whole board, and his health just doesn't matter. I don't really want to add the Stomper. He's just going to take up space. We're just going to have to sacrifice it eventually. Just for getting space taken up with like Ice Pillar, then kind of whatever. So we're going to lose our Trundle. It's unfortunate, but Ice Pillar is still pretty good here. Get the poor man's Noxcria Arena going here. Giving his, I don't know if we might have sequenced these in the wrong order, but giving his weakest unit vulnerable could be pretty strong.
The frost reveals all.
Does that go in the right order? At least when it went in the order I wanted it to, so that counts as the right order to me. Okay, so I don't think we want to augur any of this stuff. Get a big boy going.
Faraway worlds.
On a Fiora
galaxies,
Shin.
all
So
connected.
it's Shyvana or Fiora? Fiora. Big ol' Fiora.
This one's on the house.
I mean, if he hasn't had a riposte up to this point, I think I'm okay with just chancing it. He's never going to be like a Fiora OTK in the riposte. Okay, it's just a barrier. I assume we'll be losing our Rhymetusk Shaman next turn. Kind of sucks at this point because he can, you know, attack with Shen, have Shen hit the pillar, and then still have good attacks elsewhere. But Aurelion Sol will hopefully close it out.
Daylight star will rule the skies.
This might be a little greedy. I don't think he ever just passes it back to us, though. He has to get some kind of attack in here, right? Or he's just never going to win the game.
I rise.
Okay, we could give this thing regenerate, but I think if we're just going to play Aurelion Sol, no worries. I should have checked the mathematics on that before I just slammed my cards down here, but I think this is okay. Take the Living Legends, get the free flipped Aurelion Sol and all the cards tends to be enough to just win the game. Okay, it's going to take him a turn to flip now. Should still be okay.
My, how they stare.
Winter, take you.
How do we do this? Do we just go ahead and replace the ice pillar? Kinda okay with that.
Creature, there is
Like, how do we ever lose this game? Oh, okay. It's saying to replace that, give the stats to Aurelion Sol, I guess. Okay. I was gonna say, that's pretty tough to recover from.
You've been wonderful, as have I.
Okay, so Trundle it is. This is a reasonable set of cards with Ash. I don't really like having multiple Shamans, though. But we're getting our second Harsh Winds. Flash Freeze is fine. We have some combos with it. And then Trundle himself. Good deal. Alright. Continues. Yeah, what if this deck had Lysandra? And then that Lysandra had all these ramp cards. Interesting. I mean, she's a removal spell. Trundle's sort of a removal spell with Ice Pillar, but... Given what we've seen today, I kind of think... I don't know, I'm trying to think if I would rather have Catalyst to the Aeons or Catalyst to the Aeons that gives a unit plus health. And it's kind of like the idea is that, you know, that unit getting plus health could be used to protect from Avalanche. Or... I don't know, Lysandra Quake, whatever we're going to call the the deal 1 damage to everything. You got Trundle Quake and Lysandra Quake. Avalanche Quake. So,
I'll shoot the wings
Okay.
off a built wasp.
Gangplank, Misfortune, and Fizz. Alright. Targon in it. These aren't Targon champions. I did the mathematics on this one.
Looking for trouble? It found you.
Okay, so I mean, I have to assume this Misfortune is never attacking. Let's see if that changes his story. Gonna hook kill Misfortune next turn. I don't really want to get too much involved here, but I think all that's gonna happen is he's gonna attack with one Crackshot Corsair and be done with it. And so let's at least give him the incentive to not attack with everything. we lose out on our ability to get value hooks out of this. But again, very much like in the previous game, as long as we don't lose, we're going to win. And so we just buy some time, get these big old boys on the board. This Bilgewater deck's not going to be able to overtake what we're doing.
Came a long way for a bullet.
You got it, boss. Okay, I'm gonna say, is that a pilfered goods? That seems awfully aggressive without a follow-up spell. Okay, I'm just gonna take the Fallen Comet. We got enough value in our hand to just crush whatever Bilgewater can do. Bilgewater doesn't have any late game, right? They have, like, their late game is maybe they have a it's not Tom Kench, whatever that Riptide Rex. Maybe they'll have a Riptide Rex. They typically close out games with like the 4/4 elusive. And I think as long as we have answers to that kind of thing, then we have enough value in our hand here. So we're going to get chunked for something. We're going to take 5. We can technically troll chant a bit of this, but again, as long as we have time, I think we're going to be okay. We technically play the Ice Veil Archer to, you know, shrink something and have a really good set of hooks here, but that ultimately doesn't seem too necessary. Let's just protect our Hearthguard. We could have kept the Priestess on board as a blocker, but let's say it feels like if he has like any kind of trick, then I'd prefer to keep the Hearthguard than the little unit. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, I think we're just good to pass here. Boom ship. All right.
I'll shoot the wings off a bilge.
Okay, so this will probably be another open. I assume he's going to open and not give us a chance to play this Ice Veil Archer. Right, I don't feel like any of these are particularly useful. We could just take the Scourge, I guess. The turn we play it, we'll win the game. We're on the odd attack, or the even attack, so we might get the opportunity 2 turns from now. Now we just gotta get as much stuff on the board as we can. So we'll have 8 mana next turn. I think if we ever have like a good Ice Veil Archer, probably don't. But do we ever want to play the Obliterate? That's probably not. Okay.
Hey there.
Don't mind the knife.
We're gonna be a little bit out of this one. We need like to be able to survive like 1 more attack, and we're not gonna be able to do it.
Green Nightbloom, I'll tell a story.
Speak, stars.
Pass into orbit's path, move aside or face its wrath.
Okay, this is a safe attack. He can't actually kill this. He's probably never gonna block it, but now we just need to get through this open, which we're a little bit short on. It depends on how he deploys his +3. But it looks something like this.
Tell me a story.
Be at -1. Yep. Good game, friend. We just needed a little bit more prevention in there. That's why I like to keep our curve really low. You see games like that where it's like, well, you know, we have all these 6 and 7 drops in our hand and can only play 1 card in a turn. I'd really rather be able to play 2 cheaper cards given the chance. But, you know, nonetheless, here's a Sunburst. Happy to pick it up. Again, you know, we don't need these Alpha Wild Claws and these expensive units. Because we also have 3 Augur of the Old Ones to really shore up that late game. But typically, you know, we get whatever big stuff we need out of our invokes, and we don't actually need Alpha Wild Claws. So, very powerful pickup here. All right. Ate some food. Let's tighten this up. that'll that'll give me the brain power I need to not lose anymore. Getting old, man. You gotta do that sometimes. Take a break. Get some calories in you. Okay, Israel vibe with Shadow Isles. I have to assume it's just another control deck kind of thing. We should be okay, as long as we're kind of able to keep his Ezreal from flipping. So, wanted to hang on to the Rhymefang Wolf and the Troll Chant to give us just a way to interact with his early game boards. And so, if he starts out with an early Ezreal, we should be able to hook kill it. We should be able to protect our Wolf with the Troll Chant. I think that's a reasonable start. Playing the Startled Stomper makes it kind of awkward. Maybe this was a mistake. I had the idea that we could just protect this Rhymefang Wolf with a Troll Chant. But then, if he doesn't have a unit, we can't even play it. So, this will be okay. Timus just gets Mystic Shot so many times. Team. That's why we wanted to keep that Troll Chant around. Alright. Nice little 2-for-1 for Asher. Okay, we gotta skip here. We're getting back to this problem we ran into earlier where we just have too many cards that we can't play. I'd love to get this Fused Firebrand out of here, and if I wasn't clear in the pre-deck building portion, if you will, of where I'm really hyping up the importance of things like Solari Priestess. Like, this is why, just so you have early game plays that you invoke into your late game plays, and you aren't just late game plays. Nonetheless, back to what's happening here. I think we're probably good to just add Firebrand. I'm never real amped about just running out these Trundles if we can't quickly get down the pillar. And so it just feels like the Firebrand is the more important unit until we're able to pull that off. Is he going to try to hit it with a beam? Thermogenic beam? If this beam is his plan, then he can protect through this. Oh, this is greedy. That's less greedy. Okay. Great.
How can I help?
The trolls are going to war!
Let's just be bigger than him. Getting these 2-for-1s everywhere, but it's still okay. I mean, I think ideally our late game should be better than his. His Ezreal's still not even about to be flipped. Don't feel the need to Sunburst any of these. I'd rather just Sunburst an Ezreal. That's really his only unit that matters. Pick up this elusive Spell Shield. Spell Shields are so good against these kind of decks.
Stands for vicious.
Okay. Don't think we have to care about this Vi. This is what we kind of ran into previously, was just she doesn't matter.
Tell me a story.
So let's just protect our health. Protect your neck, as the Wu-Tang Clan would say. Only taking 2 damage here, it's not a big deal. So all the vengeances, all the time. Okay. Okay.
King of trolls coming through!
We should be guaranteed to get him to flip next turn. Just leading with a pillar. Can't do anything about Trundle for 3 mana. Okay. get to show him this sweet combo again, where we do the poor man's Noxcria Arena. Is weaken up this vibe, we'll Frostbiter, try to get in a good attack. Yeah, that seems better than just playing the old Great Beyond. This should be safe. There's no ways for PNZ Shadow Isles to protect against us. Vengeance is fine. And I think we're just kind of done playing stuff at this point. He can flip his Vi, which isn't a huge deal. Let's bank. Okay. We can just flash freezer over and over again.
Did that sound right?
How much do we care? I mean, that's technically a lethal. We should, against a Piltover deck, I don't think we can just take the huge face hit like this. It's too easy for him to just change directions and burn us out. The question now comes down to, are we gonna do the same thing to where we, try to take down his Vi? We can Frostbiter plus attack into her, or do we just try to win the game? Which, I mean, I think it's pretty close. Let's see what we hit with the Priestess. If we hit an Obliterate, then I'm just gonna try to win the game. If we don't, then we have a bigger decision. Okay. Let's play for value if we're not going to hit.
A true Freljordian welcome.
It might take us 3 turns this way. I think this is fine. Do this. My new plan is to re-invoke with the Traveler, try to pick up another elusive, or pick up any of the big invokes. I think we should easily be able to win the game with something. We get 2 shots at it. This, may not hit a good one, since these cards aren't always expensive. Like if we play the Star Shaping, we're guaranteed to be hitting expensive cards. But I think this is okay. Oh no, Atrocity Mystic Shot, really? Okay. Well, he had it set up perfectly. Kudos to him. We could have certainly healed ourselves there instead of playing the unit. Dang, what a way to go. The only it's like as soon as I was saying we should be safe here, there's no way to do this. Like Atrocity is the only way to go about it. So that's painful. So this deck was okay. This was not our highest quality performance that we've ever put forth. I thought most of that was pretty reasonable, but we had some minor misplays throughout the games. But that last one there was kind of tough. And so ignoring that last game, the games we lost to that. I think were both of these Bilgewater decks. It seems like both of the games that we lost were, just extremely aggressive decks, and we didn't really get this deck together in the way that I like it. Typically, as we kind of called out in that last game, and the problems that we ran into, where you have these hands where it's just like, okay, I've got a Trundle, a Harsh Winds, an Icequake, a Mind Splitter, and a Rhyme Tusk Shaman, and I can only play 1 card a turn, and you tend to just get overwhelmed when that tends to be the composition of your hand. You really don't want to be having 3 of these Augur of the Old Ones. And so, as I tried to call out during the draft portion, the important invokes being the Priestess, the 2 Priestesses, the Solari and the Nightfall Priestess, and then the healing spell and Star Shaping. And we just didn't really ever come together with enough of the invoke cards to really get that train going. And so that is kind of, a function of how this Aurelion Sol card pool lives. Maybe we should have been a little bit greedier with taking something like a Behold the Infinite or a a Moondreamer with a bad card. That's one of the things that I really struggle with here, because as you could have seen with this, as soon as we took the Herald of Dragons, it was like it was just showing us dragon, 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 dragon immediately after that. Like, we took the Herald, we got stuck with the Firebrand Mind Splitter here, but it was like as soon as we took the Herald of Dragons, the game was like, oh, this dude wants to draft dragons. And so, that was what was kind of awkward here was, in the very beginning of the draft, we were taking these cards that work well in this kind of control theme. We've got some healing in AOE, we've got some combat interaction and the interactive unit in the Challenger, just some good units in the Icevale Archer Wildclaw, but these are both good at stalling out the game. Brittle Steel with the Hearthguard is these are like all like reasonably playing to a slower kind of control-y strategy, but we never took any invoke cards, and that was because I can't remember if we actually saw any up to that point, but that's kind of the problem you run into with these Aurelion Sol decks and with how bad this card pool can be, is that I don't want to be taking Stellacorns, I don't want to be taking like Crystal Ibex or whatever he's called, and so I don't know if that's one of my negatives with drafting an Aurelion Sol type strategy, is just like not being willing to take those horrible cards, but if that's costing us later in the sense of the packs that are being shown to us. I can't remember completely. I think for the most part we were being shown Otherworldly Journeys Targon's cards, but they were just the packs we didn't want, and it wasn't a situation to where we were just not seeing them whatsoever. But kind of on that flip side of the coin as well, it may be showing us 2 Freylord packs, 1 Targon pack, as opposed to 2 Targon, 1 Freylord. And so now I don't really know if there's at some point where we should have just taken the Targon cards to try to flip that switch to where it's showing us double Targon, to where we can then hopefully take the kind of like early game stuff that we're looking for. Because if it starts showing us things like the Leona card pools, right, to where we can hit the Daybreak Invoke, or we can hit Solari Footman and Solari Soldier, whatever those 2 cheaper cards are called. We can maybe hit Sunbursts out of her pool. Like, there's a lot of good cards that pair extremely well with Leona. We can even look at things like the Tarek pools that have an additional 2-drop in it. And so, it's not ideal. Like, a lot of those cards aren't great, but we never picked a spot to where we could flip the switch to tell the game, okay, we want to be this invoke deck, show us a bunch of Targon cards. It seems like, we took this huge pile of Freylord cards up through pick 8, and that's just kind of telling the game, hey, this guy wants to be drafting Freylord. And so I think in large part, from a strategy perspective, we should have picked somewhere earlier to add a few more Targon cards to our deck to hopefully, get more Targon cards to show up in our picks. And so I think that was the overall problem we had with this trial. Sure, we made some misplays throughout in the gameplay, but I prefer to talk about general strategy more. And I think from the general strategy sense, that was what the problem here was, right? And so, yes, I believe, I'd have to go back and look at the draft, but I believe we were seeing those Otherworldly Journeys, Aurelion Sol packs, fine. But, we really want to see 2 Targon, 1 Freylord pack, as opposed to 2 Freylord, 1 Targon pack. And so I think that was probably mistake number 1. And then that kind of snowballed into the problem. The other problem with our deck is to where we had just too much top end here. Ideally, whenever we're drafting these invoke decks, the extent of your curve is going to be like, well, we have Trundle at 5, we have a handful of Star Shapings, we might have 1 Rank Test Shaman, we may have some Moondreamers. All this stuff is fine. But this garbage up here with like the Augur of the Old Ones, these Harsh Winds, and the Infinite Mind Splitter, we really don't want any of these. We really want these to be just cheaper invoke cards. And then the idea is that we can either invoke into removal spells with the Priestess, we can invoke into early game plays. And so, like against the Bilgewater guy, if we're getting overrun, ideally we could just, Solari Priestess into a Golden Sister, or, play a Nightfall Priestess and just pick up the 3/3 elusive. Just whatever we can do to get shit on the board. That's the real power in Invoke, is allowing you to pick a removal spell or a unit more appropriate to the state of the game. And so really don't like having all of these expensive cards. In the perfect world, we would have none of these expensive cards, these cards costing more than 6, except for the removal spells. And then those would just be invokes. So you can just kind of pick and choose the things you'd prefer to have. So, there were some things that went wrong. I don't care about the gameplay mistakes. That's things you can always clear up. But it does bother me when I pull off what I consider these kind of broader stroke strategies, because that's what I feel like the purpose of this channel is. I don't. I'll never, be as good of a technical player as someone like Life Coach, and I have no desire whatsoever to, in depth analyze every single game to the level uh, of. I'm trying to think of the word. The level of consistency is not the right one. It's slipping me. The level of detail, I should say, that he puts into his work. Um, but I think it's, as for like the broad stroke strategies, what you should hopefully be able to pick up here. And so kind of unfortunate when we mess up some of these strategies right from the beginning. Again, I can't remember if we um, had some picks that we could have just forced ourselves on us. Maybe take a Stellacorn and just accept that it sucks to improve the overall quality of the deck. I'd have to go back and experiment with this a little bit more. But nonetheless, hopefully on the grand scale, we did help you get some tips and tricks on putting together your next Invoke deck. I don't think we have any rewards, and so that is going to be it. That's going to do it for us today. So hope you all learned how to Invoke with your Aurelion Souls just a little bit better. You maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.